why we did Para Era was that, look, with Best Era, we were like, we want to build things that I wish I could have bought, that I wish I had. And as I was growing my personal injury firm, that was a big, big pain point. So more money goes into marketing, more money goes into salary, more money goes into software and all these things. But as you're growing and you're needing to hire people, you're also needing to train them. And, we had hired an HR person, and eventually we were going to be able to hire a full-time trainer. But there's this like great gap in between all of those things. And so as we sort of sat out and we charted what we wanted to do at Best Era, paralegal training was high up on the list. And we're like, okay, we want to do this. And then we had the opportunity to hire Marissa, who was like, she is a great trainer. When we had that opportunity, we took it, and we sort of pushed up our schedule.
So, I mean, what are the obvious? I think probably going through like running a law firm, you have those anecdotal pain points with like paralegals, but then those are replicated. You see them over and over again. Like what are the things that people aren't expecting to be problematic that does require a lot of help in the paralegal world?
The one-on-one training where you are onboarded and you're expected to learn all of these systems and how certain things are done that you know how to do as a paralegal, but at a new firm, everything is done differently. Not one firm is like. So having to sit down with maybe the most experienced paralegal there that knows everything that they can, or everything you need to learn about your role, um, takes so much time away from their actual job of case management. And with that, what I've experienced, what so many paralegals experience, is the lack of real dedication to being able to get you up to speed. And it's not because they lack the skills or they just are kind of not putting their all into it. It's just that they don't have time. It's like, okay, I can teach you this right now, but then I gotta focus on my caseload for the next, couple hours. And if there's something that comes up, which there might be, I'll pull you in. But then 10 times out of 10, that person forgets to pull them in because 'cause they're just putting out fires.
Part of this, I assume, is becoming a bit of a miss in management and focus on building up paralegals. What is the right role? Maybe not even who's the right person, but what is the right role for someone managing a paralegal or a team of paralegals?
I highly recommend bringing in a dedicated paralegal trainer. Not somebody that, just trains all the new hires, but somebody that's constantly providing them updates and educational materials and how to rework the systems. If, they're implementing a new software, who's going to take the time to explain that to them? Who has the time for it? It's a position that is not going to be a one-off role for just a new hire. It's a constant, learning.
One of
This
the
typically doesn't exist in a law firm, right?
what happens is you know what happens is exactly the wrong thing from a business perspective, which are the paralegals who are the most experienced, who are really good at their job,
Right.
get sucked into essentially like de facto training or de facto supervision that is unsupervised, unplanned, uncompensated. And so like there's a better way. And I think recognizing that there's a big cost to taking your most experienced paralegal into training your least experienced paralegal. And there's also different skill sets that are involved. And so, one of the things that we found, and part of it's technology, Conrad, which is just that, look, the great hack for small firms, and as we talk about them growing, I'm like, no, no, hire the most experienced people that you can. Hire the most experienced lawyers, because
Right.
the training gap is really hard. Like law
Mhm.
firms think I can hire an associate with 2 years experience. I'm really busy, but they don't get any gains from it because they're not able to do the work. Um, and they're not able to effectively train. So with paralegals, if you're hiring a paralegal who's got 30 years of experience, they can be very set in their ways, okay, as to
Hmm.
how things were done. They've worked for one lawyer. At my
They
firm,
probably like paper a lot more than we need
they
it,
like
right?
they like paper. And and so when you're starting to implement all of this technology that becomes intertwined with the practice of law, you need somebody who's more open to learning maybe than somebody who's
Mhm.
always done it. But that experience is also necessary. So that's what we hope, that's the gap that we hope to fill.
So, I mean, we have the Peter principle, and I see this in intake all the time, right? As the firm grows, you turn your best intake person into the intake manager, and then they do a terrible job as a manager because they're good at intake, not necessarily management. Same thing happening in the paralegal world, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And so,
It
as a firm, right? So, like, I can see having an intake manager or having a managing partner managing the intake team or someone, and we keep pushing this. You have to manage this function, otherwise it doesn't work. That doesn't really exist so much in the paralegal world, right? And so are you trying to fill that gap? Like, what is that, and how can you fill that gap as kind of this offset?
So our approach is first off building the paralegal community where they have direct access to outside sources, and it's paralegals from I would say just the US, but we have overseas as well.
Okay.
And it's not just one practice area either. So any practice area can join as a paralegal, which I think makes it even more special because if I don't know the direct question or the answer to a question of some practice that I'm not very familiar with, there's so many others that can assist. They can share templates that they have and resources that they've found and suggest certain webinars and conferences to go to, which I think brings up another point is that a lot of times law firms are sending their attorneys to go learn about these new tools and best practices and systems and all this stuff where yeah, it all sounds great, and then they come back and they're like, "Oh, let's implement this." And everybody's like, "What? What is this?" And nobody ever explains it to them the way that they
Right.
were explained to at the conference. So sometimes it's a little intimidating because it seems like a lot more work that the paralegal is going to have to do by adjusting the way that they are handling their day to day. But I think it's important that they send a paralegal to these conferences to learn the tools, maybe alongside an attorney or on their own, and they can bring back all of the information and really vet what they're seeing, because they're the ones in these systems more than anybody in the firm.
What we did is basically, um, not basically, but Marissa spent pretty much most of her first year with Best Era doing what we call bespoke consulting, which is one-on-one training of paralegals, which is working on workflows with law firms, which is really understanding the problems and opportunities that firms that were different than us faced, right? And so what we did is we built out content. So Marissa built out training courses, Paralegal 101, Software 101, AI 101, intake, litigation. We probably have some more, but we built out a whole bunch of content for paralegals. Marissa did a paralegal planner. And we're like, okay, but just selling online courses doesn't really, I think, give us the impact that we want. And we're like, our Best Era community, we learn so much, and we're like, well, community is an element of education. So and we're like, you know what, we're going to make this $5 a month. Any lawyer who's halfway interested, if you care about $60 a year spending on your paralegals, you're probably, I don't know, you shouldn't care. But so what we do is we have the community, we have the courses, and then what Marissa does is works with individual law firms. And I want you to develop a training program. Marissa's going to work with one firm to train one of their trainers. Those are really sort of like, we have different access points, and we're trying to really change the game in hopefully a scalable way for firms.
Big picture question. What do you look for? What should a lawyer look for when hiring a paralegal?
Number one thing to me is a willingness to learn. Call it curiosity, call it just a willingness to learn new things, to challenge themselves. Um, that to me is my big thing. Marissa?
That's what I was gonna say. Attitude, willingness to continue to grow with the way that the legal world is changing, not be stuck on in a certain way of always doing it the one way that they've learned it. And now into 2026, AI is huge. Vetting their understanding of AI are there's a lot of firms that I've worked with or firms that I've talked to about getting their paralegals into Slack because they don't understand AI and they kind of refuse to use it because they don't understand it.
Mm.
So having the willingness to learn where the future is going in 2026 and you know even beyond that is definitely key.
Okay. I talked to a lot of law firms about hiring lawyers. I've not talked about hiring paralegals. I've certainly developed a perspective of like the right amount of experience for a great new attorney coming into a firm. Do you have perspective on level, I'll say volume of experience because sometimes mileage is really important. Do you have perspectives on that from looking for your best next paralegal?
Yeah, I'm gonna take this one because to me, look, none of what lawyers do, Conrad, is rocket science. I mean, maybe there are some like rocket
That's
science
a
lawyers,
secret.
okay, and none of what paralegals do is rocket science either. It like there's some language that you have to learn. You have to be organized. You have to be able to deal with people. You have to familiarize yourself with things, right? I think in today's world of technology, of being able to learn things, I mean, you can learn things on Google Gemini so quickly if you're willing to. Um, I'm gonna go with zero. I don't think I really think and for firms that have strong systems and strong cultures and some training programs, you really want those paralegals to understand how you do things, why you do those things, what tools are available to do those things, and are they inclined to be uh, good at client service? Are they inclined to want to learn things? And for us, our best paralegals came from other industries.
So the next obvious follow-up question on this is, okay, you're looking for someone who you can completely mold the way you want them to work within your firm, right? Fully get that. Who you said other industries, Ryan. Who are you looking for? What is that profile? When you're, it's not like I can go on Indeed or LinkedIn and start pilfering from my competitors if I don't want if I want zero experience. Who are we looking for here?
So what I really like is I really like food service servers because they're used to one dealing with people. They're
Yeah.
used to a lot of things coming at them at once.
Yep.
They're used to people being upset. They're used to having, and paralegals are sort of the go-between, right? And servers are the go-between between the kitchen and the table. And that's a lot of what paralegals do. So that to me, those skill sets, that industry in particular is good. And as an added plus, if you're out there marketing, which lunch hour legal marketing, market to these people because that's a tough job for people who maybe have kids and they don't want to be out on Saturday nights and they don't want to miss Christmas. So you're like, hey, if you're out there and you're in food service and you want to be home at 5 o'clock and you want your Saturdays off, and you don't want to be on your feet all the time, have you considered becoming a paralegal? Like that to me is the
Yeah.
marketing pitch that hits.
I would also, to add to it, another industry would be in a medical professional, somebody that is not necessarily a doctor or a nurse, but somebody maybe at reception at a doctor's office
Yeah.
or a secretary of a doctor. It's a very similar atmosphere. That's where I came from. I was working in the medical field for like almost 10 years before I became a paralegal. So that experience really helped me, and especially working in personal injury because I already knew the medical
Yeah.
terminology. I could read records like very quickly because I knew exactly where to look and what I was looking for. So I would say also in the medical profession as well.
Have either of you guys hit up people like sitting down at Applebee's or something? Uh, like, we have a client, you and Ryan, you know this guy, but like he's like basically like I go out and eat in anywhere I can go out. I always go to a new place. I always want a new server, and I'm always looking to have a next conversation.
So I
Yeah,
haven't personally, but my first boss, he used to do that. He would
Okay.
go down to like the deli down the street and he'd be like, "Hey, if you don't want to work at the deli anymore, let me know."
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. And that is the move. I have not done it personally, but that is the move. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
You see somebody who's good at something, who's engaged, like you don't need the experience. The experience in 2026 is nowhere near as valuable as the attitude and willingness to learn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And connection is really important now as well. So somebody that you feel can communicate well and it not just be through texting or email, somebody that can speak face to face with people or speak on the phone. Um, I think that's also very important because the way that AI is kind of transforming our roles and not having to speak so much one on one is really important too.
What's the best way to manage a paralegal? KPIs, check-ins, like there's lots of different ways to think about this, but like I want you to be really successful as a paralegal. What does that look like? What is the best managerial tactics for someone?
So, Conrad, one of the things that happens in law firms is traditional training is like, oh, we use FileVine, here's your login, and here's your 100 files. Okay, like
Mhm.
that is
Yep.
that's sort of
Good
traditional, right?
luck.
So
Yeah.
what we surprise it didn't work out. What we really found was that you need to give somebody like a base of knowledge. So we had like a private wiki. You could do this through Loom. You could do this in Google Docs, but you need like a base of knowledge that they can work through. You need to have some structured onboarding and training program.
Mhm.
So it's like on this day you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. And you want to build them up on files. One of the things that we stress is you want to give people small tasks that they can get quick wins on. And so I always say like line up files where the ball's on the goal line and you just need a little push into the end zone. See how they do on these files, right?
Yeah.
Try to build some momentum. And then it's really like the ongoing uh, feedback. And I don't think, KPIs are really, really tough. I mean, and law firms get really obsessed with these things sometimes.
Yeah.
I think in theory more than practice. Um, it's not super critical, but you want to have some basic goals. You want to give feedback on their work in the moment, frequently, more upfront, especially over those first 90 days. And yeah, you do ultimately want to set quarterly goals for them.
The check-ins um, are really important for from me as a paralegal. Um, I I know that the attorney I work with is not going to be available all the time for me, but
Right.
make time on the calendar for me to either just walk in and ask questions or have it scheduled where we meet to go over the things that I cannot complete without speaking with the attorney first. And sticking to those scheduled meetings is what really helps build the relationship between the attorney and the paralegal. They can depend on you and you can depend on them.
How frequently?
We used to do it weekly, but biweekly also. I think it really depends on the practice area, and what your role as a paralegal is. Are you working in litigation, or is it pre-litigation, or is it like the intake stages of the case? So depending on where you're at, I mean, I would say if you're in litigation, it's probably biweekly
Okay.
or weekly.
here's the other point here, which is that if you're a paralegal and lawyer, like Conrad, every lawyer works differently. I had lawyers in my firm, like they were like Taylor Swift coming out of a luxury box. Like, do not look at me. I am going to have a light on my door that you can only think about talking to me when that light is green, okay?
Right.
And I'm not kidding. And me, I'm like, hey, open door. You want to come in? You got a question? Like, I'm
Mhm.
here. I'm going to answer it. Like, that's the way I work. And I encourage lawyers and paralegals to talk about that. Some lawyers are like, hey, Slack me whenever. Some lawyers are like, call me whenever. And some lawyers
Mhm.
are like, when Jupiter is aligned between Mars on like
Right.
that is an individual thing because ultimately the paralegal lawyer relationship needs to be successful and
Yeah.
there's no one way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You set each other up for success.
Let me ask this a different way, and you can. Well, I'll ask the contrapositive after. How do you know when you've got someone who's like, this person is amazing? This is going to be an amazing paralegal, and how quickly does that come about?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's amazing when they are able to like solve and anticipate needs.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I got this in and I'm not going to say like, what do you want me to do? I got it in and I've prepared the motion for default for your review. Here you go, right? Like it's that sort of like anticipatory ability to effectively understand where some part of it fits into a whole, and really anticipate and meet those needs. And I mean, look, that's going to take if that's going to take some seasoning of a paralegal. Like you're probably looking at 3-4 years of experience to
Right.
be able to really effectively do that. But yeah, great paralegals are like, hey, they filed this, I've calendared it, I've talked to the client, I've prepared them for this. You've got a pre-scheduled meeting. Here's your memo, and here's the draft motion.
Mhm.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you. You've made my life easier.
Right.
It has come at me.
Contrapositive. When do you get that? Like, I'm not talking about like we need to part ways because you got drunk at the Christmas party, but like where you're like you're good enough and you're like the B minus player that you could rationalize. We should just keep Jeff around because he's good enough, but really to be a great firm, Jeff's got to go. Like, what's that kind of? I don't want to say litmus test, but where do you feel that red flag comes out?
There's a saying, every single yellow light is red in the rear view. And like that is very true. And when you start seeing frequent yellow lights, like wait a minute, like they like what? They didn't call like I would say actually client communication because that's one where it's like, wait a minute, you're not calling this person back. Like
Right.
you're not responding to their emails or their case status messages or whatever. That to me is a giant one.
Mhm.
And just sort of like lack of engagement, where I would like attribute it to being sort of like a lazy error. Like
Yeah.
because it's like they don't care.
Right.
They're it's not because it was hard. They got the notice, they received it, but they just decided not to add it to the calendar. Like
Right.
that's enough.
All right, Marissa, what did
All
I
right.
not ask you that I should have?
I think I mean, we really touched on the big points, but focus on what your paralegals are constantly asking for or asking about, because that's going to reveal the bigger issues as a whole of like, okay, the systems are not where they need to be.
Right.
I would not push those what might seem like a later issue off, because the moment that you start working on them, you start seeing the rest of the things that need to be fixed. And if you have a great team, your team is probably the ones that want to be the ones to fix the systems. I think paralegals like to fix things. They
Yeah.
like to problem solve. I mean, I do at least, and a lot of paralegals that I know are the same way. Identifying the issues, how can their work be better streamlined? And if there's a fix to it, they know the answer. It's just like we don't have the permission to just do it. Um,
Right.
have those meetings, have those suggestions from your paralegals because they're the ones that are really working in the systems. They're the ones that are going to be the ones that improve your systems.
What are your like favorite software to work with? What are some of those critical things that like this product is awesome, or little like tech hints that you can give people? If you were to be like, you guys should really make sure your paralegals are using blah, what would it be?
Yeah.
What's your favorite if you were to call stuff out?
Well, one that might not be software specific, but allow your paralegals to schedule calls. I know a lot of firms think that this is something that is totally absurd and that could never happen. They have to be available all the time. But so much more work gets done when you allow your paralegals to set their own schedules. And it sets them up to be prepared for the best time during the day that they do their work. So in the morning, I might not like to take client calls because I'm just not, you know, situated enough yet. I need my 3 cups of coffee
Right.
before I get on the phone. Allowing them that time to not only schedule their calls, but block their time. If I'm, in the thick of discovery, I can't be interrupted every 5 minutes with minor tasks. Like,
Right.
let me focus on this discovery, and that will be the next thing I handle. Another thing with setting your schedule, it allows the clients to also be prepared. We never had pushback at our firm by our clients needing to be on a schedule with us because they know that that time that they have is dedicated to them. I'm not going to be interrupted by something else. Like I'm going to have the time beforehand to review their case and be able to give them updates immediately rather than, oh, I'm going to have to check and give you a call back. So definitely scheduling and time blocking.
Any little like quips, tips, things you want to call out, things you hate, things you love?
I love when attorneys reach out with questions about how I can help their paralegals. I love when they see us on social media and they're like, I saw what you're doing. Like, tell me more. I
Yep.
think my paralegals can really get a lot from this. I think that's my number one thing because it shows how much it's needed at a different level. Um, there's a lot of stigma in the paralegal world about asking for your firm to kind of pay for you to get further
Right.
education.
Right.
A lot of paralegals either don't think that's even something that they could ask for, or they're too nervous to hear no. So, I mean, even if you're not asking me. But if you hear this and you're an attorney, ask your paralegals if there's anything that out there that they've seen that they're very interested in learning about because 10 out of 10 they're going to say yes.
Right.
Um, and it'll probably help weed out the ones that are just there to do their job and they don't care about advancing any further.
Love it. Like asking your paralegals what they want because
Hmm.
they may not be asking. We get the same with
Yes.
marketing people, right? Like
Yep.
most law firm owners are thinking about improving their own understanding of marketing as opposed to their
Hmm.
marketers' understanding of marketing.
Yeah.
And it's the same with paralegals, right? It's the
Yeah.
same exact parallel.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Because
Thank
we
you
did.
so
That was
much. I really
amazing.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.